Hello Year 3 and happy Thursday. Today is the 28th of January and here we have our Rock and Recall activity for this morning. You've got some mixed division here and I'd like you to have a go at answering these for me, please. I know usually at school we would have a time limit, and if we were on Teams we'd have a time limit, but pause the video now, take as long as you need to find the answers, please. And here are your answers. Pause the video now to mark them and see how many you got right. Next we have our place value activity. Now what you need to do is you need to fill in the missing numbers in these pieces that have been cut out from the 100 square. Now don't forget, you can have some 100 squares that are bigger than 0 to 100. They might be 100 to 200 or 200 to 300 and so on. So you need to have a think, what number comes above, below or next to these numbers in the 100 square. Pause the video now to have a go. And here are your answers. Pause the video now to see how many you got right. And finally, we have our geometry challenge for today. Here you have a grid with some 2D shapes listed: square, rectangle, circle, triangle, pentagon and hexagon. And you need to write down how many sides, straight sides, curved sides and vertices each of these shapes have. Pause the video now and get counting. And here are your answers for today's geometry challenge. Our learning objective today is to identify equivalent fractions. To be successful, we need to know what the word equivalent means. We need to know that a fraction is a part of a whole, and we need to be able to find fractions that are equivalent to each other. Here we have our fraction wall, very similar to the ones that we created yesterday. At the top we can see our whole, our 1, and we can see below how many parts are equal to our whole. So we have 2 halves are equal to a whole, also 4 quarters are equal to a whole, and 12 twelfths are equal to a whole. Using the fraction wall, we can also look at which fractions are equivalent to 1/2, and I can see here that 2 quarters are equivalent to 1/2. I can also see that 4/8 are equivalent to 1/2. So this fraction wall is a really clever tool to use to help you to find fractions that are equivalent or fractions that are the same. You might find it easier to look at equivalent fractions in this way here. So we have our 1/2 and it is equal to 2 quarters, 3 sixths, 4 eighths, 5 tenths, 6 twelfths. And this can go on and on and on. It's not just limited to these fractions that you can see here. You can imagine it a bit like a pizza or a cake or a wheel of cheese that's been cut into smaller and smaller pieces to share with more people. Or you might find using the bar model easier when looking for equivalent fractions. This is very similar to our fraction wall that you saw earlier and created yesterday. Now we're going to have a look at which fractions are equal or equivalent to 1/3. And there are some examples below. However, some of the numerators and denominators have been hidden. Can you work out what fraction they should be? Also, if you're feeling super clever, what pattern do you notice in both the numerator and the denominator? So, as we can see, 1/3 is equivalent to 2 sixths, 3 ninths, 4 twelfths, 5 15ths and 6 18ths. Now, did anybody notice a pattern in the numerator or in the denominator? Let's have a closer look. If we have a look at our numerator, it's going up in ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's how many parts have been coloured in when we look at our whole. Let's have a look at the denominator. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. You're right, it's going up in threes, just like the 3 times table. That's how many parts the whole is split into. And here we have another way in which we can compare if fractions are equivalent to one another. This is a take on the bar model and is very similar to our fraction wall. And we're going to be using this in a minute for your independent learning at home. So here are your independent tasks today for mild, hot and spicy. You are working so hard at the moment on equivalent fractions and speeding through your independent tasks. You can start on hot and move on to spicy, or you can start on mild and work your way through hot and see if you reach spicy at the end. I'm more than happy for you to work at your own pace and take on a challenge that you are most comfortable with. Pause the video now to have a go, and when you press play you will be able to see your answers. And here are your answers for mild, hot and spicy. With spicy you may have found some other fractions that are equivalent to 1/2, 1/3, 3/4 and 4/5 that aren't on my list. Pause the video now so you can mark your answers and see how you got on. And here is your plenary question for today. The Year 3 teachers all go out for a pizza. They order 1 pizza each. Miss Den eats 3/4 of her pizza. Miss Straub eats 9/12 of her pizza. And Miss Easthope eats 6/8 of her pizza. Who ate the most pizza and how do you know?